So, have you ever been in that awkward scenario where you're starting a new campaign and you and another player both show up with the exact same character? Well, what if you did that deliberately for your next game? Today, we're going to talk about the new fusion option from Battlezoo Ancestries on today's episode of the Local Disaster Tour Guide. Happy April Fool's Day, travelers and tourists. My name is Mark, and I am the local disaster tour guide. That's right, I am a storyteller here with my annual coverage of whatever crazy thing it is that Mark Seifter decided to do for April Fool's Day. Welcome to a journey through the fantastic world of TTRPGs like Pathfinder and Starfinder, and welcome to a discussion of the latest Battlezoo Ancestries PDF, Battlezoo Ancestries Fusions, which is available for free starting today from Roll for Combat. Battlezoo Ancestry Fusions was written by Mark Seifter and is designed to allow multiple players to create unique characters that share a single body. One example of the fusion ancestry would be playing a Hydra, allowing multiple players to each control one head of the Hydra and treat all of the characters as a single creature on the battlefield. If you've ever wanted to take your teamwork to the next level and play King Ghidorah in a game of Pathfinder 2e, no, this one. There we go, that's more like it. Then this is the Ancestry option for you. Now, obviously for this video, I do need to give a quick thank you to Stephen Glicker and Mark Seifter from Roll for Combat, who did provide me early access to the PDF for Battlezoo Ancestry Fusions so that I could prepare this video. So guys, thank you so much for yet again letting me cover the cool stuff that you come up with. Seriously, when I realized that April Fool's Day was coming up and I knew something was in the works, I was excited, and once again, you all have delivered just an absolutely wonderful product that not only offers a unique teamwork challenge for players at a Pathfinder table, but also explores an area of the rules for Pathfinder 2e that I personally find very interesting. And I think some of the ideas in this PDF could lead to some excellent game design going forward. So once again, thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Mark. I genuinely appreciate the opportunity to get to talk about this stuff. If you want to check out Battlezoo Ancestries Fusions, just today, Roll for Combat launched a new Kickstarter for an upcoming project that they're doing called Battlezoo Secret Dragons. Now, I didn't get any early access to the Secret Dragon stuff, so I don't know exactly what's going to be in that Kickstarter, but given some of the reworking that Paizo has been doing for dragons in the core Pathfinder 2e content, I suspect that Mark Seifter is using this as an opportunity to have a lot of fun with a lot of the new dragon ideas and concepts that Paizo has been developing. Again, I don't know that for sure. All I do know is Roll for Combat has some dragon books coming, and there is a Kickstarter where you can go and check all of that out. As part of their effort to drum up excitement for Battlezoo Secret Dragons, they're releasing Battlezoo Ancestry Fusions as a free download on the Kickstarter website, where you can go and get this PDF in Pathfinder 2e compatible format or Dungeons & Dragons 5e compatible format, along with things like free animated tokens and a file to update the app Pathbuilder 2e with the content from Battlezoo Ancestries Fusions. So, all of this content for Battlezoo Ancestries Fusions, it is available right now for free on Roll for Combat's Kickstarter. You do not have to support the Kickstarter in any way to get this content. They are just using the Fusions PDF as a way to help draw some attention to their Kickstarter. Though, if I'm being totally honest, I'm excited both for the Fusions Ancestry and for all of the cool dragon stuff that they're going to be doing. So I encourage you, go over to Kickstarter, download Battlezoo Ancestries Fusions and all of the supporting files, and if you have the money to do so, consider encouraging Roll for Combat in their effort to bring out these Secret Dragons books. The link to all of this content will be in the video description below, so go check all of that out. By the way, speaking of support, I would appreciate it if you do all that stuff that helps to support this channel. So please remember to like, share, and subscribe. You can check out my free Discord or my Patreon. Both of those will be linked in the video description. And as always, the most important thing you can do to help support this channel is to jump down to the comments section and be a part of the conversation. So let me know your thoughts about Battlezoo Ancestry Fusions. And with all that out of the way, let's get started. Roll for Combat introduces the fusions this way. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Though, if we're being honest, I'm kind of surprised they didn't lead with the classic one-liner, 2 heads is better than 1. The idea behind the fusion's ancestry is that you have multiple player characters all sharing a single body. There are a few different options offered in this PDF, but in terms of the basics, a fusion is a large being with multiple heads, and each of those heads is its own separate creature that happens to be sharing a single body. This is going to lead to several different options and exactly what that can be, but essentially you have multiple characters in one space. Each character is going to have its own unique class and abilities and equipment. Each character is going to be operating, I kind of hate to say this, independently, while all sharing that single body together. In particular, this PDF is going to offer 3 varieties, and those 3 varieties are built with a 2-player, a 3-player, and a 4-player version of the Ancestry in mind. The 2-player version of the Ancestry, which you see on screen right now, is the 2-headed giant fusion, where you are, well, playing a giant with 2 heads, and each of those heads represents a distinct character. Stepping up from that, if you want to have 3-player characters in a single creature, they offer the idea of a Cerberus, a 3-headed dog. With some of the greatest flavor text in an Ancestry I've ever seen, that describes how Cerberus can manifest arm-like appendages, allowing them to operate as normal player characters. These arm-like appendages manifest in the form of ethereal chains that drape off of the Cerberus' body. And then the final 4-player variant comes in the form of a Hydra, where each player controls an individual head of one of these classic monstrosities. Now, I do want to go ahead and say, in regard to the 2-headed giant, the 3-headed Cerberus, and the 4-headed Hydra, there is actually a sidebar that can be found on page 10 that talks about switching around the 2, 3, 4-player variant. So, for example, if you and another player want to do a 2-headed Cerberus, sometimes called an Orthrus, you can totally do that. Or if you wanted to do a 3-headed giant or a 3-headed Hydra, that's completely legit. You may have to slightly rework some of the Ancestry feats for the fusion in order to do that, but there is some discussion of how to switch around options for the 2, 3, and 4-player variant, so that you and the other players who are interested in this can get the aesthetic of the creature that you are interested in for your particular fusion character. Alright, now let's go over some of the base statistics of the fusion ancestry and talk about how you build a fusion. Looking at Pathfinder 2e's character building rules, the fusion ancestry is exactly what it says on the tin, an ancestry. When you are building your character, you are going to build this portion of your character during the ancestry portion of the ABCs. So every player who is part of the fusion, they will be selecting the fusion ancestry and using the fusion ancestry rules to do so, but then each character will have their own background and their own class that is separate and distinct to their character. Now, all of that being said, there is some discussion in this PDF that when you are filling out the individual portions of your character sheet, you need to bear in mind that you and the other players in the fusion, whatever you come up with does need to work together. So, for example, when you're picking out backgrounds for your individual characters, since you all share one body, you probably shouldn't have one fusion who has the royalty background and another fusion who has the street urchin background. At least not without a really creative reason being given to the storyteller at your table. But in general, the common link between you and the other players who are playing your fusion is going to be the Ancestry rules, and we have those to look at right here. First up, we see that the rarity for this Ancestry is, well, rare. As it well should be. This is a very distinct type of character that you are choosing to play with other people at the table, and this is definitely one of those Ancestries that has the phrase, ask for GM permission first, written across the top of it, so I think the rarity is completely appropriate here. Hit points is fairly standard. You have 8 hit points from your Ancestry, and because you are multiple creatures in one body, the base size for your Ancestry is going to be large. This represents one of the few ways to play a large character in Pathfinder 2e, at least straight out of the gate, so that is pretty cool. Your base speed is going to be the standard 25 feet, nothing special there. And as for attribute boost, they're going to go with the standard human array of 2 free attribute boosts that you can really put wherever you want them. Now, it is important to note that not every member of the Fusion Ancestry has to assign these 2 free attribute boosts to the same 2 attributes. So, for example, if you and a friend are playing a 2-headed giant, one of you is a fighter and one of you is a wizard, it is completely appropriate for the fighter to put their boosts in, say, Strength and Constitution, while the wizard puts their boosts in Intelligence and Dexterity. There is nothing that says that every member of the Fusion has to spend their boosts the same way. As for languages, you're going to start knowing Common, and then 1 additional language depending upon your heritage. And then traits are also going to be dependent upon the particular heritage that you select. If you're playing a Cerberus or a Hydra, you will have the Beast trait, and if you're playing a 2-headed giant, you will have the Giant trait. Your Ancestry is going to give you low light vision, and it's also going to give you something called Fused Body. Now, the Fused Body ability is a bit complex. This is something you're going to want to read up on a bit and talk to your Game Master about and make sure that you and the other players in the GM, you're all on the same page with this ability, but it has several implications. The basic implication is this: you and the other Fused Ancestry player share the benefits of the Fused Ancestry and almost nothing else. As we've already discussed, you have your own background, you have your own class, you have your own equipment, you have your own set of limbs that you use to perform your actions. If one member of a Fusion Ancestry is affected by a particular condition, that doesn't necessarily mean that every other member of the Fusion is also affected by that condition. So, for example, if you have a 2-headed giant and one of the players is hit with the stupefied condition, that doesn't mean that the other player of that 2-headed giant character is necessarily also going to be stupefied. You have your own separate conditions and your own separate initiative. Yes, this is where it's going to get fun. On page 6 of the PDF, and then a little bit later on page 9 in the Combined Activities sidebar, you're going to get a discussion of actions with the Combine trait. Essentially what this means is some actions require you and every other member of the Fusion Ancestry to combine your efforts in order to do whatever it is you want to do. Now, the most obvious, prevalent, and commonly used example of this is going to be movement. If you want to move your character somewhere, then every other member of the Fusion Ancestry has to be on board with that movement, or you're not going to get where you want to go. You can kind of imagine a comic scene where one half of the Fusion's going this way and the other half's going that way, and it amounts to neither of them is making any progress in either direction. In order to move somewhere, you have to work together, and that means all movement, including any action that has the move trait as a subordinate trait, is going to be combined movement. It has that combined trait, and what combine means is this: if you want to take an action with the combined trait, you and every other player that is part of the Fusion must agree to take that action, and all of you must agree to spend the prerequisite number of actions in order to do so. Now, this can get a little complicated, so we'll start with a simple example. You're on a battlefield, and you need to move towards the enemy. So, you decide you want to move. In order to do this, you need to talk to every other player in the Fusion, and all of you need to agree that you do want to move closer to the enemy. Assuming that everyone agrees, then everyone agrees to spend the action that they need in order to move towards that enemy. Now, here's the cool part. Yes, everyone has to spend an action in order for the action to occur, but you do get some flexibility in how and when the action goes off. So let's say that you have 3 characters in your fusion, and you want to spend a move action to travel towards an opponent. Now let's say that 2 of your characters have the normal base Ancestry movement speed of 25 feet, and the 3rd character, say maybe the wizard of the fusion trio, has the fly spell on them, allowing them to fly at a greater speed. When you make the decision to have that combined movement, you can decide that it's going to be the wizard who triggers that movement. So you would spend an action on your turn, the second player would spend an action on their turn, and then on the wizard's turn, they would spend their action as well, and you would fly closer to the creature that you're trying to get to. If it is to the benefit of the fusion ancestry to let another member of the fusion take that movement action, you can decide to do that. However, on the flip side, if it's to the benefit of the fusion ancestry to take that action immediately, you can totally do that. It's your turn, you want to take the move action, and every other member of the fusion ancestry agrees, you can go ahead and spend the action to move, and the other players in the fusion essentially mark off one action on a future turn, but because they all agree to it, you can go ahead and make that move action. You have some flexibility in when and how combined actions go off, so while there is a cost to every player in the fusion, that additional flexibility is nice and something that you can take advantage of. However, I imagine you're probably thinking, the combined trait ultimately sounds like an action tax, and yes, that is true. Because certain actions require every member of the fusion to participate in the action, it does mean that the fusion ancestry comes with a bit of an action tax, and the offset to that action tax comes in the form of other combined feats that your fusion ancestry can gain. At character creation, you and every other member of the fusion ancestry will pick a single first level combined ancestry feat in addition to the normal ancestry feat that you would pick up. You will get a second bonus combined feat at 7th level, and then you will get a third bonus combined feat at 15th level, meaning that while there is a bit of an action tax using the fusion ancestry, the offset to that is essentially 3 bonus ancestry feats. And I do promise to give you a few examples of what the combined feats do, so you can see what the payoff for this ancestry looks like, but do understand that Mark Seifter has built some rules into this ancestry to make up for the fact that you are balancing the action economy across multiple players. But all of that represents the basic functions of the fusion ancestry. Now let's talk about the heritages. And again, these are technically set up where the 2-headed giant is the 2-player version, the Cerberus is the 3-player version, and the Hydra is the 4-player version. But you can totally play around with that. You are not necessarily locked into those configurations. It is worth noting that every member of the fusion ancestry must have the same heritage. So you can't have a 2-headed giant on one side and a Hydra on the other. As crazy and terrifying as that may sound, all members of the same fusion should share the same heritage. The first heritage option is the 2-headed giant, and this is going to play out in a manner similar to the skilled heritage for the human ancestry. At character creation, you will be trained in an additional skill of your choice, and at 5th level, you become an expert in the chosen skill. By the way, even though both players are 2-headed giants, you don't necessarily have to train in the same skill. For example, it's perfectly reasonable for one member of the fusion to train in diplomacy while the other trains in intimidate. This heritage is just going to give you an extra trained skill that will automatically increase to expert at 5th level, and on top of that you will have Jotun as an additional language. Up next is the Cerberus heritage, which is honestly the one I am the most excited to try to play at some point, and you're going to get a couple of different benefits from this. First up, you're going to get a Jaws unarmed attack that deals 1d6 piercing damage. It has the finesse trait and it's in the brawling weapon group. So essentially every member of the fusion is going to have a natural weapon. Pretty nice benefit. And then, additionally, this heritage is going to give you a special sense, the imprecise scent out to a range of 30 feet. And there are a few other notes about how scent works. You can read through those on your own. Your bonus language as a Cerberus is either going to be Diabolic or Requiem. The final option is the Hydra, a 4-headed serpent with 8 limbs, and you control one of the heads and a pair of limbs apiece. The Hydra heritage is going to come with 3 benefits, although one of the benefits is really just a rename. The rename is this: instead of a fist unarmed strike, you have a limb unarmed strike, and other than that, the statistics are the same. However, in the area of unarmed strikes, you also gain a Jaws unarmed strike, just like the one the Cerberus had, 1d6 piercing damage, finesse trait, brawling weapon group, all that good stuff. And then the final benefit of the Hydra heritage is you are difficult to kill. When I say that as a Hydra you are difficult to kill, what that means is, even though someone can cut your head off, it might still regrow. They actually have some mechanics for that. Now, the actual mechanics are a little bit complicated. I'm not going to dive into all of the specifics here, but essentially if you are knocked unconscious, your head can regrow, you can get some hit points back, and in order to permanently take your character down, someone needs to take you down with a fire or acid effect. However, as a trade-off to this ability, you are also more susceptible to fire and acid, meaning they are potentially more dangerous to you. Again, you, the other player, the game master, you're going to need to read the details because the specifics of how the Hydra works here is a little complicated, but yes, they have a regrow your head mechanic, it's pretty cool, and on top of that, you know the Draconic language. And by the way, check out this awesome Cerberus art. Seriously, this is amazing, I absolutely love it. Thank you, Roll for Combat, for this incredible art. I want to play this. Now, from this point, the Fusion Ancestry is going to follow what we expect from other Ancestries in Pathfinder 2e. At 1st level, 5th level, 9th level, and following the normal pattern, you get to take an Ancestry feat. As we've already noted, you don't have to take the same Ancestry feat that other members of your Fusion choose to take. Each of you can go in whatever direction is most beneficial to your character. But there is that one special element that is worth discussing, which is the combined feats. So I want to go ahead and take a look at a 1st level example of a combined feat and a 17th level example of a combined feat, just to give you a bit of a taste for what Mark Seifter has cooked up as the payoff to cramming multiple player characters into a single body. Up first, we have the Share Vigor combined feat, which is available at 1st level, so character creation, and this is very obviously designed as a help keep your party members up kind of ability. Share Vigor takes a single action, has the combined fusion and healing traits, and the feat reads as follows. You and the other members of your fusion share a body, and you call upon the shared life force to share your wounds. Each member of your fusion chooses whether to give or receive hit points. Those who choose to give hit points each lose a number of hit points that they choose, up to 4 hit points for each level that they have. Those who choose to receive hit points then divide the gifted HP as evenly as possible among them. If all members of the fusion choose to give or choose to receive, Share Vigor has no effect. So this is obviously a way to distribute hit points between healthy members of the fusion and injured members of the fusion. Each of you will need to spend 1 action on your turn to do so, but then essentially you get to transfer HP from some members of the fusion to others without spending a spell slot or attempting a treat wounds check or anything else of that nature. You just send the HP over. This is a pretty awesome ability and is a great way to keep the other members of your fusion in the fight if they take a little too much damage. Now, obviously, there are several combined feats throughout this PDF. There's a lot of stuff you can look into with this Ancestry, but let's jump to some of the payoff options and take a look at Make My Fusion Grow and Omega Beam, which are both available at 17th level. Make My Fusion Grow is a 17th level Ancestry feat with the combined and fusion traits. It takes a single action to perform, although each member of the fusion must commit to that action, and the prerequisite is that you are currently large size. The frequency on this ability is once per 10 minutes, and the effects is pretty simple. You gain the effects of a 4th rank enlarge spell for 1 minute. So this will allow you to go from large size to huge size essentially once per combat. Of course, the real treat here, and the one that I definitely had to take a look at, is Omega Beam. Omega Beam is a 17th level Ancestry feat with the Arcane combined Concentrate and Fusion traits. It takes 2 actions to perform, but remember, every member of your fusion must commit to spending those 2 actions, so this is technically 8 actions spread across 4 players. As a prerequisite for this belongs to the Hydra heritage, and it has a frequency of once per day. That is a lot of prerequisites to get into this ability, so what does Omega Beam do? Using all 4 of your heads together, you charge up and fire off an incredibly powerful beam to annihilate your foes, creating devastation more damaging than just about any other magic or effect in a line up to 2 feet wide and up to 300 feet long. Yes, that is beautiful. I love it. As soon as your fusion spends the actions for Omega Beam, you visibly begin charging the beam, which fires on the turn of the last member of your fusion to act in that turn. So this is one of the few examples of where a combined action actually must be the last member of the fusion to go. Creatures in the beam's path take 40 d12 force damage, with a result depending on their fortitude or reflex save, whichever is lower. The DC for this is going to be the highest class DC or spell DC from among the members of the fusion. On a critical success, the creature will shrug off most of the effects of the Omega Beam, taking 40 force damage. On a success, they take half damage. On a failure, they take full damage and are dazzled for 1 round. And on a critical failure, they take full damage plus an additional 100 force damage and are dazzled for 1 minute and stunned 1. Omega Beam is amazing. It will take forever to get there, but if you pull this off, it's going to be so much fun, and I want to do this in a game at some point. But that is Battlezoo Ancestries Fusions. As I said, that is live and available for free right now at Roll for Combat's Kickstarter, and the link to go check this out is in the video description. This is a very unique Ancestry that offers a very unique play experience for you and some of your friends, and while I definitely think you need Game Master approval before trying something like this, I also think you could get some very interesting characters and concepts and games out of this, and at the very least, I'm going to be dropping a fusion into a one-shot at some point, because I want to try this out. It looks like a ton of fun. So once again, I would like to say thank you to Roll for Combat, to Stephen Glicker and Mark Seifter. I really appreciate you all giving me a chance to preview this and to talk about the cool stuff that you are launching on April Fool's Day. Again, seriously, this tradition is great. Keep it up. I don't know how you're going to top it next year, Mark Seifter, but I'm excited to see you try. But I definitely encourage you, go over, download Battlezoo Ancestries for free. It's available for Pathfinder 2nd Edition, it's available for D&D 5th Edition, and there's a lot of support files to go with it, like free animated tokens, so you can get a great product at no cost to you, and at the same time, check out whatever cool announcements they have for their Secret Dragons Kickstarter, because if I'm being honest, I'm pretty excited to see what they've got in store for that as well. But with all of that, the time has come to turn the conversation over to you. What are your thoughts about Battlezoo Ancestries Fusions and this interesting concept that Mark Seifter has given us for combining multiple player characters into a single creature? Do you find this interesting? Is this something that you would like to try out at some point? And do you think that Mark Seifter has done a good job making the combined mechanic narratively appealing and interesting? I'd love to hear your thoughts about all of this, so jump down to the comments section and definitely let me know. And don't forget all the other YouTube stuff as well. Like, share, subscribe, check out the free Discord, check out Patreon, all that good stuff. But as always, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for being part of the conversation. Have a wonderful day.